Yesterday at 1:50 in the afternoon, I don't know if you were as surprised as I was to see the news that Wolves tweeted this. After 4 seasons at the club, this Sunday will be Nuno Espírito Santo's final game in charge of Wolves. We know there are a number of managerial departures.
This week,
yes,
crazy week.
Indeed. We know that Sam Allardyce will be leaving West Brom, and as will Roy Hodgson at Crystal Palace. Does this one surprise you the most? Bear in mind, he signed a new deal in September.
Yeah, not really when I heard the news did I think, oh, wow, no.
Really?
No.
I was really surprised.
No, I wasn't, on the fact that, look, I didn't predict it. I'm not trying to be smart and say I thought he was going to go. I wasn't that wholly surprised. I thought the 4-0 home defeat to Burnley was very concerning. I felt that, you know, if you look at their games, they've lost 18 games this year, which is a lot. If you think that 37 games and 35 goals for, and yes, they've lost Jimenez, Jota, Doherty, you know, they found it hard to replace them. They spent players like on Fabio Silva to come in, Jose as well. Haven't really worked out. It's been a really, really tough time for Wolves this year. And we talked about transitional season when we touched this with, didn't we, Matt Murray one day. We spoke to him on air and that's what it was going to be with Wolves. But there was transformation of, you know, the formations they played. He switched around, juggled it, spam plates, whatever he had to do, he was trying to find a way. And it was a real issue for him. I think he just found this a very, very tricky season. He's done a fabulous job, without doubt. That's not even questioned. Bringing Wolves to the table. Look, he come up with a lot of aggression. Just one game I'll quickly mention. We can talk about defeats, but when they went to Stamford Bridge in the 0-0 draw in Tuchel's first game, I was quite surprised by Chelsea, how Tuchel played, but I was even more surprised by Wolves that night. Wolves had gone from an adventurous team that always seemed to come at you from all different angles, had loads of pace and very driven in the way they played, to a team that just wanted to stifle the game. And they've done a lot of stifling this year. And I just think it's come at a bit of a price.
It's interesting because he held his news conference ahead of this final weekend of fixtures. And within that, there was no mention. It was about an hour before this announcement was made. So there was no mention of him leaving his position. And they will take on Manchester United in their final game of the season. And you've talked about how, I suppose, this season as a whole has been disappointing for Wolves. And there is the Raul Jimenez factor. I think he's their third highest goal scorer. And he's been out injured since, November?
I think there's 2 on 5. I think Neves has got that, and Prado Neto's got 5, and I think he's got 4.
Yeah.
You know, so you could argue second.
Yes, true, yeah. But that gives
top.
You the tail of the tape, if you like. And the reason why Wolves perhaps have been struggling is they have missed someone like the talisman of Jimenez. But if you go back to even last season, their season started back in July, 25th of July. Now, okay, we did have a pause in last season, we know that, but it ended up that they didn't finish their season until August the 11th because they were still involved in the Europa League. And then this season started for them about a month later. So in terms of any kind of rest, there hasn't been much of a rest for Wolves. So in a way, could we not factor that into why this has been such a challenging season this time around?
I'll tell you what does frustrate me. And I think there is a real element of football clubs, especially at the hierarchy of a football club, that if you go through a bad period, they want to just cut their ties. And I find that incredible. You know, you think there'll be some leeway along the way. You know, we saw that with Sheffield United. You know, that never happened. Yes, they had a dreadful season. Wilder experienced the same thing. They had good success over a number of seasons. Now you're looking at what happens clearly is a division within the Wolves hierarchy and the coach. And he's done enough to think, well, I've earned my stripes here. You know, you've got to back me. And I think there's a lot of managers, and I've spoke to a good few over the years, there's nothing worse than knowing that you're not being backed anymore and you've actually got rebels or people not with you in the corner. You can't not have people with you. Whether they're directors and board members, owners, if they're not with you, there's no point you being at the football club.
He took over in 2017 after the new owners took over, didn't they? And they appointed, Kenny Jackett was in charge, but I think he lasted about a week.
They've had a few, haven't they?
Walter Zenga didn't last very long, around 17 games. That was a disastrous appointment, really, for Wolves. And as you say, Paul Lambert was in charge for less than a season, we should say. And Espírito Santo came in and completely changed everything at Wolves.
With investment.
Absolutely, you're quite right to point that out. But they went from a side that was pretty mediocre in the Championship to
fantastic,
storming the league, getting promoted, and obviously we know what's happened to them since being in the Europa League, finishing 7th in consecutive seasons. The problem they have now, Wolves, is because of what this season has turned out to be, which has been a real disappointment, just because of the fact they've done so well in their previous 2 seasons. The next appointment has to be right, and the next appointment has to be someone that will hit the ground running.
Natalie,
go on.
Every appointment has to be right.
No, I know, of course. No. But what I mean is, because of the way Wolves this season is sort of petering out and has ended for Wolves. If they don't get off to a good start, they could be in the relegation battle straight away. That's what I mean by the right appointment.
Okay, yeah, of course, yes. Sorry, I've misread what
you interrupted me. I know every appointment.
What I would say now is that obviously George Mendes has a massive input at the football club, and with that, he will probably have a say over the coach, and it's whether they go Portuguese, which they're alluding to again. They're going to go back to the Portuguese league and probably bring in someone that they feel very comfortable with. I just think it's very sad that clubs don't even go, you know what, we're back him. And then Wolves fans could tell us and go, there are things wrong at our football club. You know, we're not all over every club in the country. They might say, well, no, this has been happening for a long while. And yes, they've lost, like I said, 18 games this year. So they've had a really tough time. But I do think sometimes you need to back people.
Very, very quickly. What's next for Nuno? Could he be going to Spurs?
Oh, he'll get a job. No, I don't quite see that, no. I mean, saying that, I've just praised him about what he did, but I just don't quite see Nuno at Spurs. And I can't really give a definitive reason why. If he was going to go there and be the attacking coach that he was at Wolves, he did become very conservative. And I think maybe because of injuries and maybe because of a lack of certain players and sales of others, and he might not have felt his style, he could play that way. But yeah, I think he'd have to be an attacking manager. I think only clubs who are at the big end have to have attacking managers.